Hello, today we'll be talking about influence and persuasion, and this is part two of this whole series, which I believe is the final part, where I give reference to Dr. Cialdini's book, Influence. Many other good books as well, so I'll be sharing them as I go through this business series. But let me just start. So, part two. Following on from last week, we've also got authority, where because people have natural instinct to listen and follow what the authority say or does. Authority sometimes could be people dressed in really impeccably, people dressed in suit and ties, and then you think that, oh, that person's pretty authoritative. Or it could be like a doctor in the white coat, and you think he's got authority on all the medications or all the medical conditions that he knows. So natural instinct is to listen and to follow what they say, but just a little warning that it's always think before you act because the authority might not always be correct, and sometimes I think it's really important that people learn how to think for themselves. It's just like in the world of business and the world of like weight loss, in the world of pretty much everything. It doesn't mean that, you know, a particular guru is right about something. And sometimes maybe that person is right, but maybe it's not for you. So there's different kinds of um ways that you could see this. And so the idea is if you want to become an authority in your field, then there's different ways to go about doing it, but it's mainly about building trust and credibility through success stories, through being genuine, and sometimes even dressing the part, although not always. For example, I know a few high level entrepreneurs actually most of the time just like to dress in whatever they feel comfortable in. And even Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook's creator, also doesn't really dress in suit and tie all the time. So it really, really doesn't matter too much, but it's about exuding the confidence and just presenting yourself in a way that you know what you're doing and people will sort of give trust to you in that sense. And the idea of this is to build credibility and trustworthiness, like what I said. So it's about perception of expertise in your field. For example, you being able to, let's say, go on a weight loss journey and lose, 10, 20 pounds in a couple months. And you did that, by yourself through whatever diets that you could have tried or whatever exercises and things like that. That actually makes you a little bit more knowledgeable, and it presents, your little bit of expertise in this field because you have generated results for yourself. And then through that, when you start generating results for clients, and then that becomes, a lot more credible and trustworthy. And it's about being honest and fully transparent. And one of the things, I believe Warren Buffett does this, but uh, essentially what you want to do is to have a self-damaging statement before stating the positives. For example, because nobody expects you to be perfect. So what you want to do is to state your flaws first, like, okay, I might have made a wrong investment here, but we have done yada yada yada. So those might be all the good points of all the investments. And so people, number one, they can relate a bit more to, humanity in the sense that you're not perfect and you do make mistakes. But after, looking at all your mistakes, it just makes you a lot more trustworthy because at least you own up to it. That's one thing. And the other thing is, you know, that you're willing to accept that these are your mistakes, you learn from them, and then after that, you state all the positives of your things. So it's something that I believe everyone could, try using the self-damaging statement before stating any positives of your offer, for example, or anything about yourself. The next one would be scarcity, and people are more motivated by the thought of losing something than by the thought of gaining something of equal value. Say you called up someone and told them that if they don't follow these instructions, the next day they are going to lose $5 million. most of the times they'll be panicked and they'll be like, oh my gosh, I don't want to lose this $5 million. But if you called up someone, like let's say it's a millionaire, and told them, hey, if you don't follow this, then you're not gonna gain the $5 million, then they don't feel usually they don't feel as much motivated to do the things that you ask them to do. And so when you try to market, obviously you want to go on both sides of, you know, uh being able to prevent loss and also being able to gain value. But if you had to, let's say, choose one side or lean towards a certain side, then always try to prevent loss. And obviously, anything that's difficult to attain means that it's more valuable because that's um, equivalent to quality and freedom. For example, things that are a little bit more expensive because like most people don't actually have the money to get it. So maybe like the LV bags or the Gucci's, they are usually termed by people as higher quality just because of their price, and maybe they do have higher quality, but the price actually, forms part of the factor of why people perceive it as really high quality. And the other thing is about freedom, because I believe a lot of people feel pretty stuck in their life, whether that's stuck in love, sorry, stuck in job, stuck in relationships, stuck in anything really. And so freedom, like freedom of choice, if you were to give people, the only reason why people want more money is because it gives them freedom of choice. It's not because that money is just some wonderful thing. It is wonderful, but the idea is it gives them choice because you can choose what you want to eat when you go for more money. You can choose what kind of flights you want to take when you got more money. You can choose, how much you want to give, especially like to charities and um, causes that you are really passionate about. When you've got a lot of money, like you can just give. You don't have to feel like, oh my gosh, if I give out all this money, how will I be able to survive? Can I pay my rent? Things like that. And that's the reason why, um, obviously, freedom is a huge thing. So the idea here is when you want to market to people, use scarcity. So you have to give them the thought of, you're taking away their freedom to choose, taking away their freedom to buy a product because there's only five, or taking away, like, you're just basically upgrading the quality of your product because there's just limited copies of your ebook, limited copies of this training whatsoever. And there's this called newly scarce concept where competition will cause attraction and arousal. In a sense, let's say that there were like two cookies in a jar. So you wanted to eat the cookies and you saw that there were two, so it's pretty little. And you think that it's pretty scarce, it's pretty limited. But that is fine. But if you want to think of it in another example where at first you're presented with, 20 cookies in a jar, and then after you take one, after some period of time, they present you again with the one last cookie in a jar, then you would find that, oh my goodness, this has gone newly scarce. And suddenly you would rate the biscuits as the cookies as really, really high because, you know, suddenly from something that's so abundant, it became so scarce. So that's the newly scarce concept. And the idea about scarcity is always make sure that it is real. So if you state that there are only 50 spots, make sure that there are only 50 spots. Don't try to, use this kind of tactics to, raise your prices or get people to buy. If it's not real, if it's not genuine, people can tell, and it's not good for your reputation. The next one is about consistency and commitment. As you can see, a really, really cute puppy dog there. So people want to act consistently with their words, beliefs, and attitudes because it builds trust, especially if you do what you say you would. For example, if you see a dog coming up to you and every single day, it's your neighbor's dog, every single day, your neighbor's dog He walks the dog and the dog comes up to you and he barks at you. Every single day he barks. He doesn't ever not bark. So you would trust the dog to bark when he sees you. But what if the dog doesn't behave that way? What if the dog bites you some days, barks at you some days, and then nuzzle you some days, like show you plenty of love? Then would you even trust the dog at all? It's so unpredictable. It's so inconsistent, and therefore it actually doesn't help to build trust. And that's basically the example. So you want to keep consistent to whatever you say you will do, and you want to be committed to whatever you say you will do. If you say you want to go to the gym, make sure you go to the gym. If you say you want to sleep at 9, you sleep at 9. And well, I myself have tried to keep myself consistent, although it hasn't really been quite well, but I'm still trying. It's like I said, it's a journey. It's not very easy, but I want to say that, if you keep your habits consistent, if you keep your days consistent, if you keep yourself committed to your goals, to whatever you want to get done, then I have no doubt you're gonna get it done. And just a little tip to increase the chance of getting a yes from someone. For example, you want to ask your spouse to try the new restaurant down the road, and you would want to ask them, are you an adventurous person? Because most people want to be associated with, oh, yeah, I'm pretty adventurous. Yeah, I like to try new things. Or, would you like to try, are you a kind of person who likes to try new things? Essentially, they want to be associated with being open to options. And then when they say yes, and then you ask them to try this new restaurant down the road, they'll be like, oh, okay. I did say I was adventurous, so I will say yes. And then in terms of charity, or if you're getting people to, have donations, all right? So do you consider yourself to be generous? Because people want to associate themselves with being generous. People like to be generous. People like to be viewed as generous. And so once you ask that question, they say, yeah, I'm pretty generous. Would you like to donate to this? So it basically um, forms the first step of that influence process. And then afterwards, they're more likely to say yes because they are generous. So why shouldn't they give a bit of, what they have to charity, right? So the idea here is to associate with the ideals of humans before a request. So humans like to be viewed like it's part of a little bit like ego. So you want to let them feel really good about themselves, and then afterwards ask for a request. So it could be people like, do you think you're an honest person, generous person, loyal friend, things like that. Ideals of humans. And we've got unity, which is shared identities like race, ethnicity, nationality, family, political, and religion. The idea here is whether you are like an entrepreneur selling something, or whether you're a business owner, which is kind of like entrepreneur, or whether you're working as a manager or as like a employee with colleagues. When you have unity, that's when you are going to get the most out of your team and your colleagues. So it's more about just the everyday hi bye. It's not about those really shallow kind of, oh, how are you kind of thing. I've never really believed in those. I believe that if you want to build a relationship, make it genuine, be yourself, and treat them as if the friends that um treat them as if they're family would be the easiest way to put it. So especially that's why when you see a lot of like entrepreneurs, they've always got groups. For example, a Facebook group, a Slack, a Telegram, a family for all their clients, for their masterminds, because of this unity concept. When people feel like they're joining with a group of individuals that think like them, that does things like them, it feels as if like it's a huge family gathering. And that unity sometimes is the thing that keeps them in, for example, the mastermind or the group. It keeps them connected to you. And so unity is really important, especially when you're also thinking about as a manager looking down at your team. How do you know if your team can perform really well with or without you? That's when unity makes a difference. Just like in the last episode, I mentioned that you want to give like personalized gifts and surprise them every so often with like Christmas cards, birthday cards, things like that. That could help to basically get your employees and your colleagues to be very very loyal and passionate about their work and the company. And this unity is also built as a part of it. And so that's pretty much it for the last part of influence and persuasion. If you like this, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. If you want more tips on living out your best life and value driven content, my social media links are on the top right hand corner of the page. And enjoy. Have a great day.